Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a very special presentation here with King Midas. I can be only Vaughn, your boy Vaughn. And we got called out. We got called out by a great member of the comic book community here on YouTube. Collecting Casually hit us up, asked 3 community members to do a top 10 Bronze Age 1970s video. Top 10. Man, I had to do some digging. What did we find in my PC, my personal collection, to share with you guys? I put some thought into this and came up with an extensive list, but I want to do something different. We always do something different, and we're not gonna, cheat like my boy Collecting Casually. I'm kidding. You didn't cheat. I personally don't think you cheated. It fits in the parameters. It says 1979. Hey, it's fine. But I tell you what, as always, what I like to do in my videos is add a little bit more flavor, a little bit more pizzazz to it, right? So not only do we have a top 10, I have a couple honorable mentions because I couldn't decide. I even scrapped like 5 or 6 other copies. Shout out to Pink Panther #1. I just couldn't find you. You would have been in the top 10, but it wasn't in the under the P's. And where's that book at? I have no idea. Hopefully I can find it. It's here somewhere. With that being said, this is top 10 bronze. We didn't specifically, there's no rules. So nobody said anything specifically about limiting it to comic books, right? So what am I talking about? Well, these aren't in the top 10. They probably could be, and you'll see a theme with some of the books that I have as to some of the things that I personally enjoy. But what I'm talking about are magazines. Magazines were a big part of the 70s. I wish that they were still kind of a big deal within the comic book realm, but a lot of the magazines don't really command too much value. But there are some bangers out there, and I got 3 of them here that you guys might like. So we'll start off the video that way. Like I said, I always try to add a little bit more flair to these. Look at my boy Beauty when he tagged me for what was it? Just your top books, your top 50, and I couldn't even do 50. I was just showing you guys awesome books. This is what we do with this channel here. Y'all think I'm just a modern variant hunter, a ghost collector, final issue collector. I got some keys. All right, so first up, we're going to show you this sexy Dracula Lives #1 under, what was it, Epic and Marvel, right? Marvel Monsters Group, #1 for 75 cents. 75 cents. I forgot to look this one up. This is from 1973. And just a beautiful, beautiful magazine here. Love to see it. The very first appearance of Dracula. I'm pretty sure this predates Tomb of Dracula from Marvel. But, magazines don't really count, do they? Ask Rocket Raccoon. Ask Star-Lord. I don't know. This next one, again, this is the theme that I was talking about. And you're going to see it. Well, I'll say it after I show you guys this one. But this is the very first artwork in publication, magazines, comics. Mr. John Byrne of X-Men fame. What are we talking about? We're talking about Nightmare, issue number 20. This is an unbelievably awesome magazine. Just the cover itself, look how grotesque that is, but like that old school 70s vibe to it. Man, this is beautiful stuff. 1974 to be exact, but interiors inside one of the stories by John Byrne. A lot of people don't know that, so cool little history lesson for you guys out there. Last but not least, I gotta say, this is probably the sexiest copy I've ever seen of this book, and I'm so happy to own it. Y'all saw the horror theme there. We're gonna go into something else that was huge in the 70s and started a craze like none other. We're talking about The Deadly Hands of Kung Fu, issue number 19, baby, from 1975. Featuring Iron Fist on the cover, but This book features a George Perez. Shout out to the living legend. We miss him. The very first appearance of Hector Ayala, the White Tiger, in comics/magazines. Right here, Deadly Hands of Kung Fu. This, I, pound for pound, think this is a near mint 9.8 copy of this book. And I can't wait to test it out and try to get it graded, because I believe it is one of the nicest copies I've ever seen. And I've seen them. They've been read. Magazines were read, right? Worse than comics were. So I wanted to show 3 magazines from the 70s. I think it's an untapped market for just this hobby that we enjoy, because they're you know, obviously comic book superheroes stories bled into the magazines, and they were a big part of the 70s and before that too. All right, next up, we're going to show you guys 2 honorable mentions. I really like these books. I've had these books in my PC for a long time, and again, another clean copy of this. What's nice about these books, for the most part, I think some of them are, you know, mid-grade, but none of them are like ratty, falling apart, covers detached, so on and so forth. They are complete. So first up, honorable mention number 1, we have Jungle Action number 5 featuring Black Panther. First 4 issues was just like Jungle Action stories, but this one, they added the Black Panther to the series. Awesome book. 1973. Beautiful copy here. I think it's about an 8.85. This definitely has some blemishes, but it is a pretty copy. And off-white to white pages. I don't think it's white pages. Next up, again, keeping that horror theme going, honorable mention number 2, we have Werewolf by Night number 1. Full Moon Rise, Werewolf Kill. Now in his own mag. 1972 goodness here, Werewolf by Night. Love to see it. And we'll have something tied in the Werewolf by Night coming up shortly. All right, into the proper top 10. Top 10, starting it off with one of the ladies, one of several ladies that we're going to showcase. Fortunately, she's not on the cover here. What am I talking about? We're talking about Conan the Barbarian, issue number 23. The first official appearance of Red Sonja in comics. Issue number 23 from 1973. 24, of course, people like that book. I don't own a 24. She's on the cover of the book, but she does appear in issue 23. So, by my calculations, that's her first appearance. Coming in at number 10. All right, issue number 9, keeping the theme of the girls going. We have a book that I personally really enjoy. I've had this since working in the comic shop that I used to run and manage years ago. It's like 13 years now, back in Georgia. But DC Superstars number 11 is the DC Superstars of Magic. The very first solo story of Zatanna in this giant DC Superstars. Issue number 11. This is from 1976. And I want to show this one too, because this is something that we picked up recently that I'm so happy to add, because y'all know I'm a Brian Boland stan. I'm a variant stan. That issue number 1, Brian Boland goodness. Boom. Love to see it. Now we're only missing 2 of the Brian Boland variants of that run from 2010. All right, into the number 8 slot. Sweet Christmas. Y'all know what it is. Luke Cage, Hero for Hire, number 1. I don't know why. There's not much else to say about this book, but it was hot in the 70s. 1972. Good to see Luke Cage, Mayor Cage nowadays in prominence, and it's come a long way for sure. I would say this is one of the probably the lowest conditioned book out of the bunch of the top 10, and that's still coming in at about a 5.55. All right, number 7, and if my numbers are wrong, They shouldn't be, but they probably are. Who cares? This top 10 interchangeably on any given day, to be honest. Except for number 1. I think number 1 is there for a reason. But next up, another clean copy of one of the best villains in Marvel history. We're talking about Daredevil issue 131, the first appearance of Bullseye, who never misses. And speaking of never miss, whoo! It needs a little bit of a press, but there are no blemishes on that spine. That's a pretty book. Issue 131, coming in at an 8.5. Easy 8.5. 1976 goodness. Number 7 on the list. Next up, now back to the women. Number 6 on the list here. From, I don't think there's a year on here because I forgot to write it down over here. That's okay. I promise you it's from the 70s. We're talking about All-Star Comics number 58. First appearance of Power Girl. There she is, right over on the right side. Happy to own this book. I actually bought this last year at Baltimore Comic-Con, so that was the big purchase last year. Oh, well, second biggest purchase, because I did buy a Sally Forth Adam Hughes at Baltimore Comic-Con last year. Maybe spent way too much money on that, but I had to have it. You never see it in the wild. That book is a 9.8 candidate. Hopefully we'll get it graded at some point. All right. I think this should be number 5. Yeah. Number 5. We only our second DC entry in the entire... Oh, well, Zatanna was a DC one. Okay, what am I talking about? Let's continue. This is another one of the all-time great villains of Batman's Rogue Gallery, and literally probably one of the first books that I read where I was like, comics are kick-ass, these guys kick-ass, I'm all about all this action, chests out, guns out. This is the 70s, but I read this book as a kid in the 90s watching a bunch of 80s flicks, right? So, Batman 244, classic Neil Adams, The Demon Lives Again, the classic battle of Ra's al Ghul and Batman fighting in the desert shirtless. What a book. Yeah, I said the other book, the Hero for Hire, was in worse condition. I guess this Batman is coming in at the worst condition, but still glad to own 244 here. Just an amazing book. This isn't my childhood copy, of course, and I don't even think I read it as a copy. I think I read it in trade form, but happy to own it now. All right, this is the only slab on the list. And the reason why I'm showing this one is because I had more of affiliation of this as a child. I've read this story more than the other book, which should be on this list, but I sold it. So that book is Werewolf by Night 32. And we all know what that is, very first appearance of Moon Knight. So what I have in my hand, though, is his first solo story, solo in title. Not in his title. It was Marvel Spotlight 28. CGC 9.4. Bought this book, I think in 2013, 2014, and then finally pulled the trigger to get it graded, I think 2 years ago now. 2021, yeah, was when I got it graded. So happy it came back in 9.4. Of course, we were pushing for a little higher than that, but few little dinks and blemishes will definitely keep it where it's at. Also, not too many slabs have that like little holder tab thing there, huh? It always trips me out, and I always think the case is cracked, but it's just like one of those like hold it in place kind of thing. And it's like some slabs do that, some don't. I don't know. I really don't know. Next up, one of the all-time tragic storylines in comic books. I was so happy. This is one of my first Grail books that I was finally able to buy on my own. And it still means a lot to me. I know that a facsimile just came out of it, and it's still talked about as just one of the most groundbreaking, controversial, gut heart-wrenching moments in comic book history. We're talking about Amazing Spider-Man 121, the death of Gwen Stacy. I don't think it's ever been replicated to this extent where something just shocked you. And I wonder if comics will ever get to that point again. They try to replicate it. I don't think it has the same impact as this one did. But so happy to have it. Just a huge Gwen Stacy fan to begin with. And I'm glad that she's a prominent character again. They found a way to keep her alive being Spider-Gwen, just from a different multiverse or whatever. This is from 1973, 121. All right, we're down to the final two now. Hope you guys have enjoyed the list. Watching other top 10s, you tend to see the same things over and over again. That's why I wanted to show that Zatanna book. I really wanted to show the Pink Panther book. I don't think not too many people have the number one in as good as condition as I have it. And that book means a lot to me too, because we used to watch the cartoon a lot. We had books all the time as kids, so it had a focal point in my family. But hopefully the list has been enjoyable. So next up, I think this book is probably on everyone's list if they own it. This is a hard book to own, let me tell you. But regardless of whether I personally own it, if it's part of the business, if it's something that we're, trying to sell, it's still here in the house right now. So it is, in essence, part of the PC. I'm talking about Giant Size X-Men number 1, 1975. I don't think we need to talk about this book any further, other than the fact that this book, this particular copy, once it gets a little clean on that cover, is crispy. A crispy Giant Size X-Men. So we're going to do everything possible to keep this intact. Nice and restrained here in this Mylar. At least it's whatchamacallit, a thicker comic book. That helps it tremendously. Why am I blanking on the name? They're in one of the best videos of the year. Oh man, Squarebound, there it is. Finally came to me after that weird burp. All right, my final book. We're finally here at the number 1. This video ran a lot longer. I thought I was going to get through this in 10 minutes, but here I am rambling as always. My number 1 book means a lot to me because my dad and I just bonded on anything action oriented from the 70s to the 90s. Jean-Claude Van Damme, Sylvester Stallone, the Shaw Brothers, Rocky, just anything that was that got your adrenaline pumping. And nobody did that better than Arnold Schwarzenegger. He just had that documentary on Netflix that was pretty provocative, riveting. You guys should go check it out. I think he maybe to some people was polarizing to an extent here and there, but when you encompass his career and what he accomplished, it's truly amazing, right? So we had an affinity to one particular sect, one movie that he did, older book from back in the day by I'm blanking, but the Savage Sword of Conan series. We're talking about Conan the Barbarian. I know Robert E. Howard. I was going to say Ron Howard. Robert E. Howard stories. I was always fascinated by Conan the Barbarian stories. John Carter, Warlord of Mars as a kid. So, our number 1 book means a lot to me because it has some ties with my dad. And anything that has anything to do with my dad, like my Avengers 196 and the 98, that first Taskmaster, was something that he drew. He didn't remember what this character was until I showed him, but he was like blown away when he saw the 98 because he's like, Vaughn, I drew this guy over and over and over again, and it was the reason why I was so good at drawing, because I kept drawing this character over again. He's a really good artist, but he didn't really dive into this stuff. Now I'm going off on a tangent. But, however, we spent so many hours reading Conan the Barbarian, watching the movie, and just loving that time frame. Anything that has to do with that period. So, here it is in all its glory. Not a facsimile. Wanted to cheat like collecting casually. No, we're not doing any facsimiles. This is pure 1970. Just hit the mark. 1970, Conan the Barbarian, #1. I think this is at least a 9.0. This book is so crispy. So will need to absolutely get graded and preserved, and to, of course, show my dad. We just got to check the staples and make sure they're okay. I haven't opened it in a while. I've had it for about a year now. And it's just such a nice copy of this book. So there you have it, guys. Honorable mentions, magazines. I bet nobody else is showing magazines doing this top 10. So, Collecting Casually shouted out 3 people. So let's go ahead and shout out 3 people myself. So, I don't know what Beauty Comics is doing, but I always love Beauty's insight and his enthusiasm in the comic book community. So please, Beauty, if you want to come back to YouTube, it's been a little while, drop your top 10 bronze. We're talking about magazines. I know somebody, there you go, there's somebody that might give us something different there. Simple Simon, what's up, man? You got anything for us? Show us your top 10 Bronze Age comics if you have it. If not, show us something cool. And for a third, who can we pluck in the comic book community that might show us something of some uniqueness? I'm not sure who we can shout out. Nick's Kicks and Comics, what's up, dude? Show us your top 10 if you got it. For me, I was really excited to do this, so I took the time to dig through everything to try and find and curate a list to be excited for. A video that you guys can enjoy for 20 minutes going now, 20 plus. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Check out everyone else in this entire thread. Follow them if you're not following them already. See what they have and connect with the comic book community, social media, Instagram, YouTube, all the good stuff. So appreciate it, guys. Hey, check out all the socials down below in the description. Join our Discord. I'd love to talk to you guys about comics 24/7. It's all I do. Pop culture, baby. All right, until next time, we got part 2 of Baltimore Comic Con coming up for you guys. Check it out. Check out part 1, of course, as well. And I hope you enjoyed the top 10. Bag and Boredom. We'll see you next time.